think it's not really new, but I think we're going to see the iPad taking off more, particularly from a business point of view. People talk a lot about the consumerization of IT and companies allowing users to choose their own products, choose their own devices. And I think the iPad is going to be the device of choice. I've spoken to a lot of CIOs this year who have talked about trialling the iPad. So assuming that those trials are going to be successful and satisfactory, then we're going to see those organisations buying up lots of those devices and using them both for personal and business uses. But I was on a phone call recently interviewing a CIO, and I obviously won't mention the PR company or the CIO, but yeah, it was all going very well. But then towards the end of the interview, just as we were sort of saying our goodbyes and wrapping up, the PR person interrupted to pitch a new client to me, leaving their current CIO just hanging on the call, just waiting there while I went into this long involved pitch, leaving me feeling awkward as well, thinking I should be interrupting to say, no, I've got to say goodbye to the CEO and thank him. So he just had to sit through this 5-minute pitch, and then eventually said, okay, well, thanks for your time then, bye. And yeah, so I don't imagine he'll be renewing the contract with them. I think that's a very hard one to answer. I think probably the nature of communication, the way in which the communication rolls between the three groups is probably the one which will change. I think probably social media is becoming more key and more important. The fact that you can contact people anywhere, anytime, and let people know what you're doing. So things like probably Facebook and Twitter, people communicating that way, building networks that way, I think is probably going to be the trend that's come up more this year and will continue through to next year as well. Possibly, yeah. I think because it's now easier for people to contact one another and work more closely together without needing formal lines of communication or without even needing to meet face to face all that often. Potentially that's one reason. I mean, I'm not sure the press release will die. I think it depends on the organisation. I see a lot of journals out there who pretty much just rehash press releases and use them as their main sort of source. Personally, and for computing, we don't tend to do that. We try and take the story a little bit further, get more comment and get more information before we can really write anything. So for my purposes, a press release is useful for background, but it's not really something I would use as my main source of material. But I'm sure other organisations do use it. I guess it's a matter of how much time you've got. That is obviously a very, very hard question to answer. But what I would say is that anyone with any interest at all in IT is very, very sexy.